Yep. So I just had to change the URL. So, but I posted it. There are like 8 views, or 6 views are already there.
Okay.
And I WhatsApp I sent. If you haven't sent anybody else, you can just forward that. Somehow the schedule did not work, so I had to start a new session.
And I forwarded this to a lot of Microsoft employees.
Okay. Can you just email it to them? I'll have to. But if they were already logged in, I actually messaged it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, actually, we'll get reported.
यार गणी
ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬಂತು ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್
ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಬಂದಿತ್ತು ಇವತ್ತು ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅವ್ರ ಡ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಸ್ಕಾನ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗೋ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಆಫ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅವತ್ತು
6 to 6:30 was like, yeah, the time was 6, but
ಹೋಗೋಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಡೋದು ಕಂಡುಬಿಡೋದಿರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದು ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೋಸ್ಕರ ನೋಡಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಅದು ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ಸಿಸ್ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ಸಿಸ್ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ more habit and must be ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಬಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ
Welcome everyone. Good evening. My name is Kiran, and thank you for patience waiting patiently for the session to start. On behalf of VT Seva, we would like to welcome you all for this wonderful session. I'll give a quick intro about like what this non-profit organization is about, and then hand it over to the moderator for today. VT Seva is a non-profit organization which was started about 10 years back with the intention to serve the underprivileged children's education and also for serving the medical causes throughout the world. We have about 25 chapters throughout the US, and in Seattle we've been doing a lot of service activities, especially with the youth, and we've been doing this youth-related service activities for about 10 years. And however, like we have not been able to focus on the other side of the youth, which is like the pressure and the anxiety and the depressions that these children go through. And we were very shocked to know about some of the facts. And we thought like this would be a very apt session, especially to help the parents on how to help our children to cope with the stress that they are going through in school or like social in many facts of life. We have a wonderful panel here today who are going to talk about and the many facets of like to help parents on how to help them. So without much further ado, I would like to give it over to Mr. Educator, who would be the moderator for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you. Welcome to you all.
You have to talk to the mic. People are like category.
Oh, this will not work?
You have to.
You can put it a little louder.
Yeah. Keep it up.
Hello, welcome all. Is this okay? All right. So as Kiranji said, namaste and welcome to you all on behalf of VT Seva. Today we have, this is the first of 3-part series we are doing on a very important topic and subject which impacts teenagers, a lot of families, a lot of communities around here. So this one, and then we have one more talk we'll schedule in July. We haven't set the date yet. And then we have a walkathon, 5K walkathon in August 10th at Merrimore Park. That's also dedicated to this same cause. So that's the setup for this one. Today we have 4 distinguished speakers who from different aspects of life. Some are from the education field, some are from the medical field, some are parents who have come forward with their own personal stories. It's meant to be a discussion and collaborative session. So please feel free to ask questions. Each speaker will have 10 to 15 minutes, and then you can ask questions at the end of the session or even in between. So the first speaker for today is Srinivas Kedamji. Please welcome.
Thank you.
Most of you who are in Seattle are very familiar with Sri Srinivas Ji. He's a founding member of VT Seva here in Seattle, and he's also one of the founding members of JET USA. In terms of education, he's Assistant Principal, Equity and Diversity Administrator in North Shore School District. To his credit, he has more than 33 years of teaching experience. He's taught in not only in US, but also in New Zealand, where he launched his early career in education. He has a doctorate in education, and he's a exemplary leadership skills, and he's advisor for a lot of tribal schools and schools run by JET in India. So please welcome Srinivas Ji.
This one closer. No. Okay, thank you so much. What Upinder has mentioned is, yeah, that's what a little bit of things that I do, but I'm passionate about students because in my role as an administrator, as an equity and as well as a diversity leader in an assistant director capacity, I tend to interact with the families, students on day-to-day basis and who undergo so much of a stress and a pressure because of so many reasons. So if you take a look at, for example, some of those issues, why these children are going through this stress, why, how can we help to begin with? What are the barriers, what are the gaps that we can fill as parents, as educators, as administrators and so forth. So these are the trends that I have identified and as well as so much of the research is going on too. Take a look at, for example, trauma. If we take, for example, trauma, a lot of people think that trauma could occur only because of some kind of accident or a tragedy or something like that. But trauma could happen because of so many other issues. Let's take, for example, now if they don't have enough food at home, if they don't have enough structure at home, if they don't have a good relationship with either mother or father, it could impact significantly. For example, I deal with some students on day-to-day basis. If they happen to go to maybe their dad, their mom, they are separated, let's put it out there. So they are separated and they have different homes. If they happen to go to their dad, the behavior of that particular student is absolutely predictable. Monday, when Friday says, oh, I'm going to go to my dad today, then we know what to expect on Monday. So Monday, we prepare ourselves and the teachers and as well as all the support staff to say that, but hey, watch out for this kid. He or she is going to probably, escalate today. So the trauma, there are tens of reasons why a child could undergo trauma. So that causes a lot of stress to students. They cannot focus, they cannot learn, they don't want to interact, they don't want to communicate, and you name it. So it is a kind of a chain reaction that happens, and we deal with that on daily basis. And know your children's capabilities, interests, skills, and attitude. Why I put it is there, you know about high cap programs, right? Quest, high cap programs. In North Shore School District, we call it as a high cap program. So highly capable program, AP classes. That's where, in multiple intelligences theory, I'm addressing them a little bit later. So this has been there since 1960s. Know the capabilities of your children. I often face this situation, parents say, my neighbor's son or daughter takes AP classes and I want to make sure my child also takes those AP classes. Do they really know whether he or she is capable or not? No. They are only comparing with their neighbors. That's where know what their skills are, know what their capabilities are, know what their interests are, then navigate them in that particular direction. So I'll address this piece a little bit later. The reason is, as experts, seek guidance and don't act as experts. I get parents into my office. They say, oh, Srinivas, Dr. K, they say, I think this program is going to be great for my kid. I said, okay, talk to me about it. When I explain the whole situation, there are times where I spend 1.5 hours time or 90 minutes or a couple of hours trying to tell them why that program is not okay. They walk out of the office room either convinced, oh my God, we did not know that there are so many facets about this issue. Or if they are arrogant, they become experts. You know what? I know, I'm an expert. I know very well. I don't want to listen to you. I put it like this. I'm an educator, 33 years experience. I can never be a perfect teacher. I know that. It takes lifetime, multiple lives to become an expert in education. If I come to you as programmers or maybe, whatever the management skills maybe, or a director, something like that, maybe software skills. If I come and tell you, hey, you don't know what to do, how to do the programming, will you be happy? No, you will be happy, right? Because you are an expert. I'm valuing you. I respect that. So the same thing needs to happen to the parents also, or anybody else. In the education field, there are experts who have invested their time, lifetime, learning the trends, learning what works, what doesn't work. Listen to them. At the same time, be open-minded, do your own research and so on, but don't decide the fate of a child only on your expertise. That's the reason why I have written an act as experts. Not every child has to be academically strong. Multiple intelligence theory. Anybody heard about it? Yeah, right. So, Gardner, 1980s, and he's the one actually who introduced this theory, saying that people are intelligent mathematically, kinesthetic, reading, writing, musical, whatnot. Someone is good at math, someone is good at writing, someone is good at reading, and so forth. Okay? So we need to encourage them looking at their capacities, their intelligences, then they are likely to shine or enjoy more than anything else. For example, I give you one example. One of my friends' daughters, she hated math. Parents, what did they do? They put in a math class, AB class, math class, and so on. She never wanted to go to school. She said, if you ask me to take math class again, I'm going to quit the school. Then finally, after several sessions, I spoke to them, this is what you have to do. I told them, she is good at writing. She's good at, reading and writing. Let's encourage her going to arts. Fine arts. Believe it or not, right now, she is excelling in writing. She wants to be a journalist, or she wants to be a writer. She writes beautiful poems on day-to-day basis. And the joy in her face is absolutely phenomenal. So those are the things that we needed to look into, what they are capable of doing it, what they can do, and let's encourage them in that direction only. That would be ideal. Encourage in the areas of their strengths, and that ties in very well with that, and avoid comparing them with others, even siblings. No two siblings are the same. You know all about this. You heard about this one multiple times. No two siblings are the same. One could be, I have a child, I just had an IEP session, probably you heard about it if you're a parent, IEP, individualized educational program. One child is just, in the sense that it's really good. He's in a gen ed program. He doesn't need any assistance or anything else. But the second child is autistic. And he needs extreme interventions. Extreme interventions. That means he needs at least 50% of the time he needs to be in a sensory program. Sensory program with a lot of autism, a lot of ADD, ADHD, and so on. Their needs are totally different. So, same family, two different needs. You cannot say, look at your child, look at your brother, look at your sister, how she is doing, how he is doing. No, it's totally unethical, I would say. Unethical even to compare with your neighbor's children also. Unethical. I just stress that particular point. Kindergarten education. He's having some issues. Now, after 6 months in kindergarten, now he's ready for kindergarten. He's not ready for first grade. I had to tell the parents, I have to convince them why repeating that kindergarten is absolutely essential, because his mental maturity. Avoid setting expectations beyond their capacity. Their interest versus your interest. I put it this way, I want to touch this immigration because, at this particular place, because immigrant population, it goes in all population pretty much, okay? Especially it is significant in immigration population. What they say is, I never became an engineer, I never became an artist or a musician. You know what? I want my child to become an engineer and artist. Is that okay? Absolutely not. Unethical. Every individual is totally different, and you need to encourage them only in the areas where they are interested. Identify their interests, not your interests. Don't make your dreams come true through your children. Not okay. So, high cap quest AP classes are not necessarily for all students. So far, I come from a research background. I read probably, some articles, quite a bit of tens and hundreds of articles probably in my career, and I haven't seen anywhere where it says if you have a high cap student or have taken AP classes, they will excel or they will get a CEO job right away, or maybe managerial job right away. No, they may have a small edge. They may finish and so on, and there is no edge at all. There is no research that proves that they have an advantage or they have an extra edge in their career, professional career. No. That is for sure. And students in general education could equally get into a good college and have a professional career. I said, I taught so many middle school kids, high school, and I counsel them. I also give tips and as well as coach them. I tell them, what do you need to have? Do you need to have a grade 8 point average, 3.940? No, you don't need to. I say, have a good attitude, have work ethics, responsibilities, leadership capacity. These things are critical. I also joke about it, which is also true. All the people, the whole world is run by people who are probably C, B, B plus, right? And A's are, what are the A's doing here? They are screwing up the whole world, right? Take a look at the congressmen and the movement, right? What are they doing? Unethical practices. I mean, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but see, who went to these corporate crimes? Committed by who? Smart Alex, coming from elite universities, with a lot of richness and so on, whatever that may be the background and additional, background you can refer to. But they are not the ones actually who are running the whole world. So, Janet, I tell them the same, students and parents, give them good attitude and work hard no matter where you are. Follow the ethics and so on the rules and so on, then you will be okay, no problem, you will survive. And most of us here, I can speak for myself, I was never an A student. I always was a C plus and a B. I'm doing okay. I've been in the country for the last 25 years, okay? I'm fine. How about that? Okay, let's put it that way. And I know who actually did not even, have those kind of C's and B's grades also, but they are doing absolutely fine because they are working really, really hard. And teach values and principles that again, your values, whatever the background that you come from, it doesn't have to be a particular whatever the values that you have, every person will have values, I'm sure, okay? The discipline, the ethics and all those kind of things, moral leadership and so forth, we touch all those aspects at the high also, right? And let them enjoy their childhood. That's important. I wrote an article about 7 years ago. This is pertaining to India and as well as some other Asian countries also. In the name of homework, they have a concept, even Japan, Singapore, India, Korea, China, and all these kind of countries, they have a concept to take a break during your work hours. Probably every an hour or 2 hours, right? To take a bathroom break. How ethical it is to expect a child to sit in their seat and learn for 7.5 hours without reasonable break. You get to have so many coffees and teas and drinks and cokes and so on, but what about the poor child and their mental capacity? Their brain did not grow yet. Still, it is in the developing stages. So, I said in the name of homework, I call it as child abuse in the name of homework. That's what my title of my article was. Okay? So, it's not okay. Let's not put that kind of a pressure on them. So, let them enjoy the childhood, but at the same time, balance it out. Academics are important, and the social skills are absolutely important. Again, we were talking about, take a look at the media, multimedia, and as well as, and the gadgets, how much stuff, okay? Something else? Nothing. Did you learn anything? Nothing. Okay? Was teacher interesting? Nothing. Did you play sports? Nothing. So, nothing is the standard because they don't know how to communicate. It's not their fault. It's a fault. I see some parents, what they do is, don't get me wrong, but I have to educational perspective again. So whenever they go to parties or something like that, what do? Child is bothering, give a cell phone, and please play around. Research, latest research says not more than 30 minutes of time, screen time for any kid, no matter what. If it is a kindergarten or first grade, elementary level, it should be 20 minutes. It's okay, even weekly you restrict less than that, it's absolutely fine. Screen time is killing our children's creativity, capacity to communicate, capacity to write, think, and whatnot. Can go on and on and on. Okay? So those are some of the aspects that I see. I know there are tons of information that is there, but the value of time, I would like to pause here. I know you might have some questions also. We'll get to that. Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
So a lot of homework nowadays is coming online. They say use Google Docs or anything. The schools are having the laptops. So you are encouraging the kids indirectly to use the screen, and again we say that don't use the screen. So how is it balancing?
Yeah. So, I hope you heard the question, you know, when they are, yeah, I'll repeat that question. When schools are asking them to use Google Docs or whatever that may be online screens and so on, all the textbooks are actually online right now, right? Why not use actually, how can we balance that, okay? So, how long do they do the homework, right? That's the bottom line. You needed to see that one in a couple of hours or something like that. For academic purposes, it is okay, but what I'm saying is screen time in the sense, social screen time. Okay, communicate. For example, let's talk about it, you know, what are all those Twitters and so on, the Twitters and all the kind of Facebook we have, right? All those kind of communication, FaceTime and so on, right? So, let me give you one example. I know our professionals, medical professionals will address that. So, there was a research done, and as well as that research indicates that our brain is not ready or not trained or tuned to get extra motives, that means encouragement or something like that. What do we get? You like it, right? Likes. So our brain is supposed to be responding to only a certain amount of likes. For example, you have done good buddy today, congratulations, well done, that's fine. But what children are doing right now nowadays is, they have to be on that social media and they have to be liked by so many people. I post a nonsense thing, I like your skirt or trousers or hat or whatever that may be, and they expect 200 likes from somebody else. If you don't get 200 or 100 likes, you are under pressure. You are putting your mind under enormous pressure to think, if I don't get 200 tweets, I'm going to be unhappy. I'm not a famous person. I'm not liked by my friends and so on. Okay? Imagine it is multi-fold 100 times of capacity you are burning, your brain's capacity you are burning. I'm talking about that particular social media. Work-wise, it is okay, because that is a life skill that needs to happen, but that could also be balanced. They don't have to be sitting in front of the computer for 2.5 hours non-stop, okay? There is a way, like half an hour. What do we do? At work, what do? We just sit totally 8 hours in front of the screen? We don't. I don't do either, right? An hour, half an hour, I get up, I walk around the building, I'll make sure I take a fresh air and so on. I want to get away from the screen, that's what I will do. So, those are the habits that we need to inculcate, make sure that when you take a break, you know, half an hour, you take a break, and then after come back and you do the work and so on. But don't glue to the TV or maybe Facebook or whatever that may be screens for too much. I hope I answered your question. Somebody else want education? Yes, ma'am.
One of the biggest challenges that I find is that kids, no matter how bright they are or how challenged, is anxiety.
Yeah.
And so, how do I, as a parent, help my child to overcome anxiety when they're at school? If they have a situation where they have an anxiety attack and there's no way to handle it?
Well, that's an excellent question. You know, anxiety is a day-to-day basis. We deal with it. Now, kids would come with a lot of anxiety. What we do is, what is that actually causing that anxiety? First, we identify that.
Lack of foundation initially,
Yeah.
and then getting pushed in through the system. What I'm finding is that the kids go to school, they're just having basic social conversation. And so my whole goal, you're in North Shore School District.
Yeah.
I found out there's no mental health specialist in North Shore School.
Absolutely. We do have, but you know, we introduced last year, but we have a limited mental health, you know, resources and as well as counselors. But the site-based only limited at the moment. Yeah, that's true.
My child has been transported 5 times for attempted suicide in the past year.
Interesting.
And I tried to get her mental health report in North Shore School District. And I couldn't because of the laws. Because she's struggling, and so I tried to get her to challenge this. And so, you know, every one of these things that you're talking about, I have to get past what the school has to offer in order to help my kids. Because every single one of these things, you know, 3 times now I've got CPS on my backside because the schools are pressing charges against me. And I'm just being extremely transparent because I have
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
who committed suicide last year,
Yeah.
and my daughter tried twice. And there weren't people who had a desire to die, but they're reacting. And then all of a sudden, it happens.
It happens, yeah. That's where I can say thank you so much for being transparent, and that is actually I work with the Dr. Reed closely. And last year, we put so much of pressure. Last year, about at the same time, we had a principal's meeting at that particular time. Every principal pushed for that. We want mental health counselors in our every building. Yes.
I just talked to her,
Yeah.
I was sitting in her office when my child was being transported. And so I'm here to tell you that it needs to happen, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it happen. My daughter is deemed to be intellectually disabled. Somebody told her, write to the school board, we wrote to the school board. Every time I put it out there, it comes back in, I feel like I'm shopping Nordstrom. It's like, thank you for your shopping pleasure, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, I hope you have a better weekend. It's like, excuse me, my child just got transported, and then when she goes back to school, you know, you talk about anxiety,
Yeah.
she goes back to school, and we come home from Children's Hospital, the first thing they say is business as usual. You don't have somebody shouting you, you don't have a backpack check because they found it in an article in your backpack. It's business as usual. And so my child, who's got all these challenges, is all of a sudden supposed to go back to school business as usual, and she
Yeah.
can't.
She can't, exactly, you know, that's where, ma'am, I totally understand, you know, your frustration, I would say that, and your concern also. We principals, as we do, we put so much of pressure on the administration. We fight on day-to-day basis to get this kind of help. That is the reason why they hired some counselors in some sites only. And the next proposal is, we got the bond and levy that was actually passed, right? So we wanted to get some more funds towards that. Diligently, we are working, you know, I'm not sugarcoating your the words at all, but I can see by being inside the system, can see how much work is happening, but we are not seeing the results yet. You know, every building administrator is totally frustrated as much. The funding is critical, and I don't know, we are just trying to navigate through all the bureaucratic policies and so on, going to the board, get their approval, get the money, and all this kind of things. Work is happening, but it's very, very slow, I know.
So I also work with EMS, I help in the medical,
Yeah.
like emergency medical service. Same kind of thing. What I've come to find is you have funding in place, but only so much funding, but then all of a sudden something comes about, anthrax, Y2K, whatever it is, and all of a sudden the money's there. So what I'm finding is that I believe that if we as parents help to make it known, you know, it's in our school
Yeah, yeah.
district, there was just, I noticed a young man died, he, you know.
Yes,
very
last year, yeah.
serious. No, not last year, just.
Was it?
2 weeks, Memorial Day. He jumped.
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah,
the
that's
water.
one, yeah,
And
okay,
anyway,
okay, yeah.
and so there was a sheet on that Dr. Reed posted as to, you know, who to call and what to do and who to follow. So I looked at that sheet, every single one of the times that I've ever had situations with my child, we've gone through those lists. By the time your child is having anxiety and dealing with this stuff, you don't have time to
You
make
don't
an
have time.
appointment. And, you know, going back to immediately, and I know this because I'm in it, my child is refusing to even go to school because she's afraid of making a mistake. And so all I'm saying is, we have it in her IEP
Yeah.
that she's supposed to see a mental health specialist, but they only have access one in 5 schools. And so it's like, excuse me, we need to get one. This is what I said to Dr. Reed, we don't need one for just my parent, my kid, just because I'm sitting here pushing for it. We need one at each school, so that if a child comes in like a nurse, you know, we need to have a different kind of a nurse. We need an EMT, somebody who deals with all of those kind of things, that any one of our kids, or the principal, or a teacher, anybody, because I gotta tell you, when my kid was screaming and yelling, threatening to commit suicide, the principal had never seen that before. I've seen it in the last 9 years, because she started out after she was adopted in a contained learning center, and that became her go-to the minute she learned her language, and it hasn't stopped. Now my goal is to get her retained. She's now getting to the point where she's learning, because she's been in the system, but now I want her to be able to have an extra year to be a kid. Now they're trying to push her into the transitional program. So I'll talk to you on it.
Yes, sure, definitely. As I said, no, one thing that I'm doing, the reason why we are doing this one is, I talked to Dr. Reed also, she said, tell me how I can help. She's quite happy to come to this kind of thing. I said, Dr. Reed, just come and listen to the frustration and the anxiety that parents have with regards to these kind of issues. So next session, I'm going to invite her to come to these kind of sessions too. And I will advocate for you personally for sure, you know.
I talked to her in her office.
I know.
Independently. I need everybody else to
Please.
talk to her because I think that
Sure.
if all the parents are saying the
Yeah.
same thing,
Uh-huh. Yeah, and that's
That's
why we have an idea of actually, you know, getting together in schools. I propose this idea to Dr. Reed, saying that we need to have in every school, in our North Shore school community, where we can be able to have, kids can have these kind of interactive sessions guided by adults and professionals like this, yeah.
not to mention classes about how to interact with each other.
With each other, yeah.
About the very different,
Yeah.
personalities and whatnot, 12-step programs, DBT programs, just ways of people understanding how to function.
Yeah.
It's really hard, when you go to school to learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
If you, then, the second you get anxiety, it doesn't go away, and then people start focusing on medications. It's like you give your kid a medication, and all of a sudden there's a million other side effects.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So does she have other professional help other than school? She gets probably.
Yes,
Yes,
she
she
has,
does.
yes.
And do you contact them when there is a need, and or is there a wait period for that?
So the problem, yes and no, in that once your child is 13 years of age, they're in charge of all their medical decisions, and I changed my medical insurance after 23 years a year ago. And so once that took place, now when my child is in a good place, she invites me in and she allows me to talk to people, and if she's not, it's rather challenging. But yes, I try. It's hard. You all know. It's like your kids have to want to work with you.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback on a really point. Thank you so much. That helps us to learn and as well as put wherever the pressure. I told Dr. Reed also saying that after the session I'm coming to you directly and I'm going to bring that feedback. We got to do something about it. So that was my question. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas. I think that was very informational and thank you for your feedback also. I think that's something which Srinivas you can take to the Shore District, School District, and then hopefully make some positive changes out of that. So, thank you. Yeah. Our next speaker is Mr. Ganesh and Mrs. Brinda Manawar. They are presenting a perspective from a parent. They've been very brave to come forward here, and I'll let them tell the story. They moved to Seattle area about 1.5 years ago, and Ganesh works for Amazon, and Brinda works at North Shore. They have 2 kids, Darshan and Sahiti, and I welcome them to share their personal story and life experience too.
So about 3 months ago, we were on the beautiful waters of Anacortes. If people don't know where Anacortes is, it's the border of US and Canada. It's amazing. It's an amazing body of water, very beautiful backwaters from the ocean. And we were on a cruise boat. And I was there with my family, my parents coming from India, my brother and his family from New York, and Brinda and Sahitya. So in this picture, there's one person missing conspicuously. So for the first time in our life, our son Darshan was missing when we were out on the water as a full family. And he decided to take his life on March 25th. Darshan always lived like a king. And we thought that we wanted to celebrate his life and send him a farewell that he would be proud of. So we were on the water, we were on the boat, and one of the ways we wanted to do this was we blew a zillion bubbles into the water, and these bubbles floated up in the air. It was a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and the bubbles were shining just like he was in his life. And the bubbles landed on the water, and you could see a million lighted bubbles on the water. It was just totally beautiful. Secondly, we wanted to disperse his ashes in the water along with rose petals. And as the rose petals drifted off on the water, we felt at peace because we thought that he's back with the earth and now he's free. Darshan always loved to fly drones. So we wanted to send him off with a salute. So we thought we were going to fly a drone, and this drone flew up into the sky, and it flew and flew and flew until it became a small speck and vanished into the sky. And to us that was a really good symbol because we felt that his spirit was free out in the sky and it was now floating with the rest of the universe. Now, generally, we have always considered ourselves to be very open-minded, broad-minded, well-educated. And even though we were putting up this brave face in trying to celebrate his life, obviously deep inside we were hurting like crazy and we really didn't know how exactly came to this. So friends, I'm here today to share our story. My wife Brunda cannot speak because it's still very fresh. It's less than 3 months ago that this happened. And we've been doing a lot of introspection to try to figure out what actually happened. I have gone through a lot of introspection and learning in the last 3 months, and we would not have thought in a million years that this could happen to someone like us. But the truth is, it could happen to anyone. And also, the bubbles to me are a representation of how fragile life is. We always take things for granted, and everything seems to be great until the bubble bursts. Now, let's look at who Darshan was. Now, it's very hard for me to say was, because it still feels to us that he's going to walk back into our home anytime. It's really hard to imagine that he's not actually going to come back home. Plays sport. He knew 100 decimals of the fight when he won contest because he had such a great memory. More than anything, he was a loving brother. He always had this big smile on his face. He was very, very friendly with anyone he spoke to. So it was very hard for us to really understand what was going on. To us, it felt like it was a facade. There was a mask. So he has this personality where he's smiling and friendly, and everyone sees him as having fun and enjoying his life. But he was probably going through something very deep inside. But I'll also tell you a little bit of the background. So both my son Darshan and Sahitya, who's also here today, were born in Michigan. And when Darshan was about 8 years old, we decided to move back to India to be close to our family. We thought that would be a really big adjustment for them, having born and being brought up in the US, to go back to India and adjust to the school systems and to adjust to fun when we were in India. We used to create our own cultural event, celebrated every year, and all the kids would come together and they would do dances and musical events and so on. And Darshan was always part of that. We used to do a lot of, about 5%. We thought that it would actually be better if we moved back to the US. Because we thought that he was going to lose opportunities of being in the US and going to some of the best universities. So we decided to move back. Because we had seen that the kids adjusted to moving to India so well, we thought it would be easy. It should be a piece of cake because they were born and brought up here. But unfortunately, what we learned was that he had a tough time when we came back. So he was already at the beginning of high school. It was actually 10th grade when we moved back. So we moved back in 10th grade. And it's a different culture. So in India, everything is well protected. So we have a really good set of teachers to take care of the kids. They are very close to the kids. You also have friends that take care of you, and your family who are really taking care of you very, very well. And then when we moved here, it was a totally different environment. So because it was wide open, freedom to do anything you want, but also it was a very individualistic culture, where people are on their own. They have to figure out how to deal with everything. So for the first year, he was fine. At least that's what we thought, and there was no major difference for us to see. But the second year, what we started noticing was he was going through huge anxiety. So he had social anxiety, so he could not make friends. And he had a small group of friends that were accepting of him, but we felt that they were not the right group for him. So that led to other issues. Then he started, his grades started going down, and he started feeling depressed. He also got hooked to video games. And in the US, it would be unusual if kids don't experiment with different things. So here, you're experimenting with substances. So a lot of different things came into the picture. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Is that when all of this happens to a kid, they really don't know how to deal with it. So it keeps compounding, because initially it may just show up as a little bit of anxiety. They don't know how to make friends, and then it gets getting compounded because they really now get impacted in what to do in life. So at one end of the spectrum, he was always about, instant gratification. I want to have fun, I want to spend time with my kids. On the other end of the spectrum is, I really don't know what I want to do in life anymore. So it's like two ends of the spectrum. And then on top of all this, he had a lot of interest before. He started losing interest in everything that he used to really enjoy doing, like playing the guitar. He didn't want to do that anymore. He didn't want to play tennis anymore. So it was very difficult for us really to understand what was going on in his life. So we took him to, they really have their own life. They want to create their own life and have friends. So they're not really listening to parents that much anymore. Right? So what I found was he was spending a lot of time on his own. So he wanted to shut the door, play video games and not really socialize with us as much as he was doing before. So with all this happening, with the low self-esteem, he struggled a lot. And eventually what happened was his grades obviously took a hit. And then when he completed high school, he really didn't know what to do. I mean, this was a real issue. It was not about, I just want to have fun and take time off. It was really a big issue for him because he really could not figure out what to do. So we were along the way trying 100 different things, and we were kind of, we were busy at work. We were trying to help him, but the problem is we really didn't know the severity of the issue. So when he was performing at the top 5 to 10%, and now suddenly he's in the bottom quartile, how did that shift happen? And how do you really know at what point you need a lot of intervention? I mean, that's a big problem. You really don't know as parents who have never been exposed to this in the past. Like all these, the words that are here are totally new to us. I've never actually gone through that myself or anyone in our family to really understand the impact of mental health issues. So it is a big issue, and there is a need to do something about it. So if you look at the statistics, suicide, I think this may be even dated data. This will be dated, but it's the #2 cause of death in youth between 10 to 24 years of age. Actually, the same issue everywhere. So if you think of the top 10 countries in the world, Russia is #1. I wouldn't have believed this, but Russia is #1. Then it's followed by Poland, Japan, Korea, India, US, Canada, Australia. So some of these names are very unusual to be on this list, but it's really unfortunate, and it's a global epidemic that it's happening around the world. And when I looked up the numbers, I mean, these are 2016 numbers from World Health Organization. 222,000 people die from suicide every year. And when you look at the graph, a majority of these are happening again in the same age group, youth. that are between 15 to 24 are the most susceptible to this. So kids below 15, it's very flat, it's very low. So it shifts dramatically when it goes from 15 and above. So there's something happening at that stage of a young person's life that they suddenly, they start getting peer pressure at school, pressure from the parents. Now they start coming out on their own, they build their own personalities. So until then, I think there is a lot of protection from the parents, but also what I feel is parents are able to help them to some degree until that stage, but then parents can play the role of a doctor, a teacher, a parent, and everything else in between. So there is need for like professional help to recognize whom to go to for some of these challenges that we face. And suicide, obviously, it's actually the end result of something else. And even then, if you think of depression, anxiety, stress causes suicide, but there's something else causing the depression. So you really need to dig deeper into what's happening in that person's mind, in their environment, in their peer group. So until you understand what's going on in their own personal life, it's really hard to really to say, oh, I want to prevent suicide. Because you cannot just prevent suicide unless there are cases where someone is actually in the act of doing something and somehow you are lucky enough to prevent that from happening. So to really prevent this at an early stage is the best solution before it actually becomes an issue. And some of these other metrics that you see here, I'm not going to go through all of them. So if you are not able to solve a mental health issue up front, then it's going to be really, really hard to catch it later and resolve it later. So it will definitely lead to much worse issues later on. So it's better to catch it up front and try to do something about it as quickly as we can. Now, what should we have done? So this is the worst thing that a parent will go through when a kid commits suicide. Right? It's really rethinking our lives. I mean, it really makes our life upside down, because now we really need to rethink who we are, what we do, why we did certain things, what are our values, how dear are those values to us. When we are going through this challenge, you need to have a lot of patience. I'm sure all of you as parents know this, especially of teenagers, that it takes a lot of effort to be patient, to contain yourself, and really to open up and listen. But that's the first thing in my mind is with spiritual guidance or meditation, there may be a number of ways of doing it, but unless we put the oxygen mask on ourselves, there's no way we can have kids in our family or friends or community. So there is a need for us to kind of really understand ourselves and being able to cope with what is going on. So we really wish we had given Darshan support. So that's Brunda lifting up our son. This was on one of the birthday occasions. But we really believe that we should have given him support in a lot of different areas. Empathy, compassion, and also I want to re-emphasize the point that kids these days know more about mental health than we do. At least in my case, we really didn't know much about it. Like, what are the symptoms? What are the indicators? What do we need to watch out for? Because when kids talk about certain things, it always feels like, are they just making it up? Is it real? When do we really take action? Because then you also get desensitized. So if kids keep, let's say, threatening you to say, if I don't get this, or if you ask me to do something, I'm not, I really am going to do something, right? But when do you know that they actually mean it? What is the turning point? It's very hard to predict. So this is where getting professionals involved, developing our own patience and so on is really, really important. And also reevaluating our own principles and values are extremely critical. So this is what we would have done differently had, obviously we have another chance. We would have rethought how we would have dealt with him, how we would have communicated. Communication is another key thing. When kids go into their room and lock the door and you really don't see them for several hours sometimes, because we're all busy going to work and coming back. Sometimes you may not see the kids for several days. You really don't know what's going on in their lives. So it's really, really hard to understand that. So one of the things we have taken away is one, become more patient ourselves, help other individuals in our family. But also, I really want to thank Srinivas ji and BT Seva, because when this incident happened 3 months ago, they were there ready to help us. Until that point in time, we were in a cocoon. We really were not reaching out to the community. We were not getting involved. We didn't seek any help. We thought we could handle it ourselves. We really didn't. The school system, there is really not a lot of support. They don't have the funding. They don't have the counselors. I think through VT Seva, there is a lot of opportunity to provide training, awareness, and also an idea that we have discussed here is how can we create a little pool of counselors who are like the first responders. So also similar to CPR, it's not just important to have CPR, you need to have mental health CPR. So if someone is going through an anxiety attack, how do you deal with it? I mean, I wouldn't know how to deal with it. I've never been through that myself. So how do you convince someone that they don't need to take a drastic step? So it's really important for us to rethink how to train and build awareness at the schools and try to build a community around it. And volunteering is definitely one way. Spirituality is another way where we can really help someone like rethink some of the basic tenets in their mind about why they feel like this life is worthless. So it requires like a re-engineering of their mind to come back to the reality. So I really hope that through this event, we are going to continue to spread the awareness and bring more and more people into the fold on helping everyone out. So last but not least, what I'd like to say is, Darshan wrote a poem called Facade of Reality. So in his own words, he has described what he's gone through, and that he was putting up a brave face, he was putting up this, friendly face, but deep inside it, he was hurting and he went through a lot. So to us, that the bubbles are a representation of how fragile life is and the facade of how shiny it may look on the outside, but deep inside, until you're able to connect and empathize and really figure out what's going on, it's going to be really, really hard to help our friends and family. So we have created, I should say, something called Margadarshan. So Margadarshan means the guiding vision. So Darshan means vision. Marga means is a path or guide. So we want to share what we have been through so it help others. And so hopefully others can learn from it and don't have to go through the same suffering that we did. And we want to help others and contribute to the society. So we're going to practice. So in fact, other thing is Darshan wanted to be a psychologist. And his goal in life was to help others. So that was the final thing he realized that he wanted to do. So we want to continue, carry the torch, continue what he wanted to do, and he's now giving us an opportunity to fulfill his dream. So once again, thank you Srinivas ji, thank you Kiran ji and the VT Seva organization for giving us this opportunity to share our story. And I really hope that this will help you, and we're here to help in any way we can. So this is part of the healing process for us. Thank you once again, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Any questions?
I'd like to say one thing. So it's not a responsibility, but I do admire you and kudos to you guys for coming and sharing this with us. And I understand it's very hard for you, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and the support is really helpful. And we could not have been here without help from Srinivas and Kiran ji. So they are giving us the strength to do it. So,
I don't know, in retrospect, was we able to find out or think about it that you might have
So that's a really good question. So the question is, what would I have done differently, or what we would have done differently? So I didn't tell you this, but what happened was, in the first week after Darshan passed away, I had somewhat of a spiritual awakening. And I was not a believer 3 months ago. I was not believing in God, I wasn't believing in spirituality, but I had this awakening that I experienced myself. So since then, what I've been thinking is, what would Dalai Lama have done? What would a Mother Teresa have done if we had gone through the same thing? Because even though I'm making it sound like Darshan went through a lot of issues, it goes both ways. And it was a big challenge for both of us, right? Because he was going through anguish, we were going through anguish as parents, and we were not able to communicate, he's not able to communicate. So the big question is, what would we have done differently? I think the biggest thing I would have done differently is if I had the same awakening or realization, I would have been a lot more patient, I would have empathized a lot more, and really not been as strong in trying to say, this is our value, this is our principle. It's okay to let go of some of your principles as long as it's not like it's not a crime or something, right? It's really the degree of what is acceptable and not acceptable. So when I think of a Dalai Lama, I think his acceptance would be so much more of anything that may happen in the world, and his ability to cope with it would be so much different. So I'm not there, obviously I'm not a Dalai Lama, but I would have approached it in a totally different way. That's my answer. Please go ahead.
Actually, I just want to talk about this in detail.
Okay.
With my son, like, we always want to, like, hey, you got to do this, wake up in the morning, get ready to school, you got to be ready, have breakfast. We put so many of these things, we think that like values and egos and make sure and all that. So one of the slides you put in there, they have a softer line. Right? That really stopped me because we always insisted on these things so strongly. Now I'm thinking that, hey, there's some of these we need to let go and we need to have a softer line. Try to see what works with you, what would at least you can work through a thing which is a middle ground. So my son, we every day have the problem that he wakes up late. We never really realized what is causing him to sleep so late. And some of these things are very common with a lot of teenagers and a lot of kids. But you're right, we don't know how to deal with it. We can't understand, we're not that experts to find out what is going through their heads. I think it's very important to like have that introspection. I'm really so thankful to you guys to bring that out and tell it to every parent, because this needs to go to every parent out there of a teenager.
No, thank you for making the point. I totally agree with you. And in fact, in some very simple thing, kids don't like to keep their rooms clean. I mean, that's a known fact. And then, we take that to heart and say, how many times do I have to tell you? We keep repeating it 1,000 times and 1,000,000 times, but it still doesn't work. Right? So then that's where I think having patience and developing a different mindset where we are able to cope with it ourselves is the first step. Because if we make that a big deal, then we are losing it, we are stressed out, we may be depressed. So I think that's why I really believe that having parents go through the training, or maybe even figuring out what their coping mechanism is and letting go of things is really the first step. And then you can try to figure out, then you at least, I think the kids will feel that the parents at least are taking some steps and they're not just yelling and trying to make a big deal out of something that's not really critical, and they are probably more open to sharing what is going on in their lives. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Thanks again for sharing your experience. You can actually resonate what you said. All your experiences. People go through, and the biggest experience. A couple of things I found, especially, is it's so easy for me to box a kid. We try to build our teams with the kids, right? We have our own do's and don'ts. What is the right way? Just like you said, values. A lot of times, the other day I was talking to my daughter. She said, "Oh, Dad, you changed." I said, "Yes, the values are being stressed and changed." Not rigid. So it's one of those things as parents, you don't have a parenting 101, right? There's no training guide and all. We are learning as we go through. And you never know when to speak up, just like you said, right? I have a son who has, I would say, similar personality to yours, right? But then, my wife would say,
think that's where, in my view, getting kids exposed to that from the beginning. So when we talk about values and principles, we can't just impose values and principles. You have to get them through that from an early age. And if you don't do that, I mean, even if you're talking about morals, right? Moral science, we as kids, a lot of people who come from India, those of you who go to Sunday church or Sunday school would learn moral science. But if they're not doing that anymore when we come to the US, where are they learning morals and ethics and values and principles? So we need to take special steps to make that part of their life as they grow up. And it can't be just, I'm going to impose this suddenly and now everything will follow that. It doesn't ever happen. So thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Do you mind showing the poem written by the
You can go to marga-darshan.com and the poem is posted. It's called Facade of Reality. Thank you. Go ahead.
We really appreciate you. Oh, sorry. Really appreciate you taking time. It is not an easy thing to live through such a tragedy in a family. On behalf of VT7 and everybody here, I can't imagine what you're going through as a family. And taking this kind of a positive approach on life, I see that you're already way ahead of a lot of us. And helping us really understand what you went through, and a lot of us have gone through in the past. So I want to give you encouragement on that. And there is no fast forward in life, and only time will heal a lot of these things. And the journey that you are on and trying to take us all, we are all behind you. And we are seeing a lot of things change in our society, both for good and for bad. And taking this moment to turn around that and looking it in a positive way, a big round of applause to both you and Brenda and your daughter too. Really appreciate that.
That actually means a lot to us, for sure, and we really appreciate everything Srinivasji and VT7 have done. That's definitely, that's the strength. As I said, we would not be able to talk like this without the strength from the friends we have here. Thank you.
So, my question, I'm more of a, I'm looking for something like, so you moved to India and then you moved back here.
Yes.
There is a difference in culture.
Yeah.
There is a difference in how you are with your kids here compared to how you are with them in India. So what would you have done differently, or what is it that has impacted? Like, you know, what is one big thing that you could say that you had to have done this or had been consistent, both in places like this, or
Yeah, now,
is that a habit?
yeah, sure, absolutely. So hindsight is 2020. We really had no reason to come back to the US except for kids' education and maybe a little bit of career progression, but career progression was really minor. So the problem with mental health is it's a silent killer, and you really don't know when it will hit, how it will hit, how bad it can be. There's really no way to imagine. And quite honestly, this is a more of a recent event from our life. So when we were in India, everything was going great. So there was really nothing in our mind to think that, oh, we should not go there because there is an issue or there could be an issue. All of us are aware that in the American society, kids have more options, they have more freedom to do and experiment with different things, but that's a known fact. But we come, as I said, come from a family where the bonds are very strong, the principles and values are super strong. So we, growing up, even though we had a lot of opportunities to do different things, we never did that because that never came to our mind. So there was really no reason for us to think that something would go wrong. So I would not have done anything differently moving from India to here. But what I would have done differently is I would have stayed much more closer to the kid as they went through the steps. And one of the key things that I really, even when I think about it now, is what I would have done differently is the kids have attitude. And now, how do you cut through the attitude? I think that's going to be the biggest challenge because sometimes they just act up and little bit of fluff built into how it was being communicated, I would have taken that rather than having to go through something like this. I would live through that if I had known that. Go ahead, one more question.
Thanks, Management.
Sure.
It's eye-opening for me personally. It's been clear of. I have 3 sons, aged 10 and 7. And I know the pain losing the family person. And some of the points we show, it's very much. My other one 11, turning 11. Right? But overall, this one, the presentation, the points, very eye-opening. How to treat the case and how to deal with the case. Thank you very much. Thank you, VTCM also. But it's a very eye-opening for the parents.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Anything else? Thanks again, everyone. Appreciate it, and feel free to talk to me with your story. And that's very empowering to all the parents here, and we can talk about their learning from something this and then take home that we've done so far. So hopefully, I can go address them. Also, I think one thing which struck me was, I think we as parents, we forget how we were when we were teenagers. But I think if we all remember for a minute, like for example, I used to go in the middle of the night, we used to go for tea. Right? Now, if my son, still with, when he's awake till midnight, I'm worried. Right? Why? I mean, I used to do that when I was a teenager. I kind of okay, right? So I think in some respects we sort of forget who we were. I think so. That's also maybe something. That's just one observation I did. So, our next speaker, I think, is from the medical field. We have 2 of them, both MDs, practitioners MDs. This is Vishali and Dr. Sarita Reddy. Just a brief introduction to both of them. Dr. Vishali, she's a practicing general psychiatrist, she's a sleep specialist. She started out as an assistant professor of psychiatry at SUNY Buffalo. She's affiliated with Swedish Medical Center, and she also works with Europe in the human-centered design and engineering to reduce healthcare costs and improve healthcare issues. So please welcome. And Dr. Sarita Reddy, she's a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. She's trained at University of Washington and has been in practice since 2004. She consults for a Native American tribe and is a part-time private practice in Delhi also. Again, she also believes in multidisciplinary approach, involving both parents, community, taking the best practices from each of those different areas. So please welcome.
It is very humbling for all of us to be here after listening to your story. And my primary goal here for everybody in this room is to stay tuned to your kids, not to miss out the very minor signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression. It can be easily missed. Being a practicing psychiatrist, I have a 13-year-old, and we are facing a lot of things with her. And the key, or the most important thing to do right now with her, right now for us as parents more than physicians, is to hear her stories, find out what is it that's bothering her on day-to-day basis. What are those identifying key features that will let me know whether, oh, this is normal, or oh, maybe this needs help or needs to be addressed with a counselor or a professional. Because no matter what, we cannot be neutral in our own environment. You do tend to get upset, you do tend to be harsh with your kids. And and the frustrations are, like very overbearing sometimes. So if you ever see your child like being lethargic or sleepy, or like somebody mentioned, teenagers who are struggling with waking up in the mornings on time, delayed sleep phase syndrome is very, very common in teenagers. It's not just your child, it's everybody's kids as teenagers who are struggling with those symptoms. These are the little things to pick up on and address them right away. But we tend to interpret this differently, right? If somebody is fatigued or tired or just wants to sit and play video games, we are like, oh, you're being lazy, like, come on, like, let's do something else, or start studying like a neighbor's kid, or whatever the deal is. Those things are not what you should be doing. And if you think it's beyond your control, it's perhaps a good time to consult with a specialist or even your primary care provider and ask them, what do you think? What are these symptoms all about? How can we relate to our child better? And the key thing is to be communicating with your kid. Ask them, why are you tired? And your kid will be more than happy to tell you, oh, I didn't sleep well last night. Or they will say, oh, there was too much going on at school and I'm just not in a position to finish my homework tonight. And honestly, if you reach out to the teacher and say, they can do this paper in 2 days, I don't think any teacher would disagree. And I want that feedback from Mr. Srinivas. I've done that. I've told my daughter, no, it's 10 o'clock, lights off. I'll talk to your teacher. And it's worked out for us. So it's not, and sometimes we do get caught up with our own lives. We are like, oh, we all have to go to bed, we have to do this, so the kid is not working fast enough. So it's time for everyone to take a step back and be compassionate to yourselves, and then you can be compassionate to somebody else. Otherwise, we are like, okay, come on, be on task, do this, do that, and then it's a never-ending saga, right? And then something big happens, and we are like, why did it happen? So let's pause, let's take a breath, and see what is it that you need to look up. So if you feel that your kid is, restless for some reason, either they are not eating right, or feeling fatigued, or they are having difficulty concentrating at work or school or at home, or they are not even making an eye contact, you want to take a note of this and keep a track of these symptoms. If this is not occurring on a regular basis, there may not be, or it's just a once in a while thing, it's okay. But if you think that this is evolving into a pattern, that's when you address this. So muscle tension, if your kid says, oh, my neck is hurting, my arm is hurting, maybe they're trying to tell you something else. It's a good idea to ask them more questions about it. Sleep is the biggest issue I've seen, like with devices and waking up in the mornings, and that's a constant struggle, and that's what I do in my practice. Weight changes, appetite disturbance, or failure to achieve expected weight gain, feelings of worthlessness or inappropriate guilt. These are the things, your kid will not say, oh, I am feeling worthless, or I'm feeling like I have inappropriate guilt. They're never going to say that, but they will tell you things like, oh, I really suck at this. I've heard my daughter say this, I cannot write an essay, I suck at it. And I'm like, why do you think you feel that way, Is it because you cannot write sentences? Then she'll say, no, I can write sentences. Is your vocab not good enough? And then she'll say, no, somebody else did better than me. And I'm like, okay, fine, we've addressed that. So it takes a little bit more of probing than say, oh, why did you get a B+? Oh my gosh, this sucks. Like, these are the terminologies you want to work on reversing and say, what is the real problem here? Like, let's sit and talk, or let's go get her an ice cream, and that's when she talks better. Nowadays, she's getting smarter than me, so every time I tell her, let's go get an ice cream, she's like, I'm going to get more speech from you. But this is how you try to sort of communicate with your kids. So, again, this is more of an anxiety symptomatology. We all are familiar with this, but I just wanted to touch upon that. And then the next one is for depression. And also, the main takeaway from my talk today, or my presentation here, is we don't have any x-rays that we can hold up and say, oh, your kid's arm is broken, or your leg is broken. These symptoms creep up. What you need to understand is an adolescent's brain is developing. That means it's going through a lot of changes, whether it's in terms of size or in terms of how they think, or the neuronal connections or firing, or however. There is a lot of imbalance that's occurring, and that occurs from the so-called terrible teens, from 13 to 21, I would push it out to say. Your brains are not fully developed, and that that's mainly because there are three major chemicals in their brains that are coming into action. And if you see each and every of these neurochemicals, they contribute to certain functioning, right? So if your norepinephrine is not working, then your energy levels are low, or you're not able to concentrate or focus or even make an eye contact. So that's what leads to ADD or OCD or depression. Serotonin, again, everybody knows like serotonin is the happy chemical. So if that is disturbed or low, then there's going to be depressive symptoms. Dopamine, again, it's the thing that if you're playing video games and you're feeling like, or you're getting 100 likes, that's the reinforcement that's occurring. Now imagine a 13 to 21 are the years that your kid's brain is trying to balance out these chemicals. So if your kid has anxiety or depression, and a classic example is you're at this big thriving Indian party, and everybody wants to talk about how great their kids are doing, and your kid is not really doing well, and you don't want to say it. Don't do that to your kid. That's not right, because what you're missing out is there's something going on in their brains, and you need to address it when that comes out. So what if your kid is not doing well for now? That is not a reflection that they may not be able to do better later on. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. If this was an X-ray, you guys would have jumped up saying that, oh, I need to fix my kid's arm or leg or whatever the deal is. But if it's a mental health issue, I have to admit personally in my practice that a lot of Indian parents have a hesitation of coming forward. Please do not do that, because we are here to help. And we can give you resources and help only if you come forward, not if you want to hide it or not take it out on your kids. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I was just checking to see if there were more slides. So anyway, so I'm going to take it a little impromptu because I don't have a slide today. I'm Sarita Reddy, and so I have been seeing kids for almost 20 years now, kids and adolescents for almost 17 years, I should say. So one of the things I would like to talk about is, since Shelley and I talked about anxiety in kids and teens, I want to talk a little bit about depressive symptoms as well. Some of the symptoms are similar. Sleep disturbances are pretty common in kids and teens who are depressed. They could be sleeping a lot or not sleeping at all. Appetite changes are very common. They could be eating a lot, like emotional eating, binge eating, or they could not be eating, losing a lot of weight or gaining a lot of weight. There are also changes in concentration, like focusing abilities. Schoolwork starts to suffer, grades start going down. There are also things around, if they were a social kid, they would start to isolate themselves. They would start avoiding social contact, staying more at home. That should be a red flag for a kid who's social. If the kid were never social and he's staying home, that's totally wrong. And of course, the other important thing that you would also be watching for is any threats of suicide or saying that they don't feel life is worth living, or talking about life not being good enough, or them not being good enough, or not being worthy of things around them. So all those should be red flags, and these are some of the signs and symptoms for depression that we commonly look for as well. So, and things kind of look different between, like, let's say a 5 is a little too young for some of these symptoms, but depression does happen in 5-year-olds, but it looks a little different. But if it were a 10-year-old versus a 17-year-old, I would say a 10-year-old would be more like not wanting to do things, staying home, but a 17-year-old would be maybe thrill-seeking. Substance use could be a big concern, because that's where they're trying to experiment and do things that will stretch the boundaries. And talk about the chemical changes too. Again, adolescence is unfortunately one of the times when the kids' brains are going through a lot of changes chemically, and of course their bodies are going through a lot of changes. And of course, they're also trying to separate, individuate from the parents. So there's a whole lot of things going on. It's pretty confusing for the teen, and it's even more confusing for the parent, because you're not sure what's going wrong. You're like, I'm trying my best, but my kid is not receptive to my help. So one of the things my pet peeve is, and I'm guilty as well, just give yourself one day to do this little experiment. Count the number of commands you give your kid. Just count, starting with 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. Just count the number of commands you're giving your kid. It could be starting with, wake up in the morning, get up, get out of the door, to, did you eat your breakfast, did you eat your lunch, did you eat your dinner, to, did you do your homework, are you gonna sleep, when are you gonna sleep? So just do this little experiment one day and just count the number of commands you're giving your child. And compare it to the number of actual conversations, or like, how are you today, how was your day? I mean, I'm a teenager, so I can't say I really have meaningful conversations for more than 2 minutes. But yeah, it could be like, how was your day? Yeah, great,
Good.
whatever. So, but I think whatever conversations you have, it doesn't have to be extremely meaningful, but you just have to show them you're there for them if they need you. That's the important thing. Because I can't expect a 17-year-old, if you're a 17-year-old or 18-year-old or 15-year-old is sitting with you having a 20-minute conversation, that's awesome. I think that's perfect, that's great. But on the other hand, that could also, mean that maybe something's bothering them, they want to talk to you. They just don't know how. So you gotta be really cautious. So you just don't want to assume everything's hunky-dory, that's great. So, talking about chemicals, one of the things I do want to talk about is, I come from a perspective where depression or anxiety is a combination of things. It's never just chemical, it's never just something around you that's going wrong, it's never just the way you think about things. I think it's a combination of things. So if the ground is right, if there's fertile soil, things can go wrong pretty quickly. So if you have a family history of depression or anxiety, if you have schoolwork that's extremely beyond your means, and you have 10 APs, and I do know kids that do 10 APs, then that's bad. That's a total, that's put a right setting for depression or anxiety if a kid's not able to handle that pressure. And most of the times, in my practice, I kind of don't want to blame parents, because I think a lot of kids that I see are actually putting the pressure on themselves. It's not the parents. The parents are actually telling me, you tell them not to take so many APs, but they want to do it. So there's a lot of peer pressure. There's a lot of, we're going to, if you don't get a job, if you don't go to a good college, we won't get a job, we will be homeless for the rest of our lives. That's the way the kids think. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of it is cultural. It's how, like Mr. Srinivas was talking about, Dr. Srinivas was talking about, how there's a lot of pressure about going to a good school, which can eventually lead to a great job, which, is not true. And we do, in our world, we know people who are college dropouts who are millionaires, so it's really, it doesn't really mean anything. That doesn't mean I'm saying your kid can drop out of college and be fine, but I think it's good to give them the message that it's okay wherever you go to college or whatever you do with your life, you'll be okay at some point, right? And of course, kids do get some, sometimes there's a lot of underlying pressure for the kids. They just assume that the parents want them to do well. Obviously, every parent wants their kids to do well, because that's parenthood, right? You want the best for your child. But you want to make sure that there is no undue external pressure to succeed. If your kid says, I want to go to a local community college, you might in your heart go like, oh no, why did I pay all this money for you to end up in community college? But eventually in the long run, there's no way to predict. Your kid might end up becoming a hotshot lawyer after 5 years or 10 years, but there's no way to know. So I think my suggestion would be for parents, younger kids, if you can spend 10 minutes or maybe even 1 minute for each year of the kid's age. So if it's a 6-year-old kid, maybe 6 minutes. Just sit down and spend time with them as a commentator would do. Like just sit with them, comment on what they're doing. If they want you to play with them, go for it, play with them. If they want you to just watch them build their Legos, just do that. 10 years, maybe 10 minutes. 12 years, if they still let you do that, you can still do that. After 13, 14, you can call them out for ice cream. They might believe that for about a couple of years. And then it kind of dwindles down to maybe a few minutes, like I said earlier. It could be a few minutes of, oh, let's have dinner together, which will be a 2-minute fast dinner, or it could be, a conversation where a dinner where you're actually having a meaningful conversation for about 3 minutes. So I think it'd be great to just have that going. It doesn't have to be, again, like I keep saying, the reality of things, you can't have like a meaningful 15-minute conversation like you would with an adult, with a teenager, because their brains are different. But think it'd be really helpful for them to know that you're there for them, no matter what. That's the message you want to give them. No matter, even if they fail, right? And if you have experiences in your life where you failed and did okay, I think it's good for them to hear that. You don't have to feel embarrassed. You have to let them know that, hey, you know, I've failed, I've done okay. So it's really nice for them to hear those things too. And the other thing, talking about social, you know, talk about the biological, which is the chemical stuff. The psychological stuff is where, you know, kids think differently because, again, they're trying to individuate, especially teenagers, as they get closer to the college years. They're just trying to individuate, separate from the parents. So you will hear a lot of no's. I want to do it my way, or the highway. But yeah, so I think that's where you gotta exercise some caution. You don't want to be totally rigid. You know, we talked about boundaries earlier, about having some loose boundaries sometimes because we don't want to be really rigid and kind of cut out that communication. We really want that communication to keep flowing, so it's good to have a little leeway when it comes to certain rules and regulations. Maybe have a dialogue, have a conversation, so it has to be something which is not set in stone, but you continue to have a conversation about it. And the other part is social. So definitely I was talking about how kids, when they start getting depressed, they start isolating themselves. So if you start noticing patterns where they're going, hey, something's not right, you could ask your child about it. You could say, hey, you know, why are you not hanging out with so-and-so? I haven't seen you hanging out with so-and-so in a while. Something going on? If they're in a good mood, they might tell you, yeah, you know, we're not getting along. If not, they might even just say, nah, we just decided not to, you know, meet up, we're too busy. So if you start seeing red flags, again, that's where you can get professional help. Because a kid might be willing to talk to somebody who's not a parent. And that's the important piece too that I want to bring up, because a lot of times you might assume that the kid would be comfortable talking to you, but sometimes kids don't, you know. Even my own child, I can promise you that she would probably might tell somebody else a different story here. So I think as parents, you have that delta if you see some red flags mentioned earlier. And the other thing too is not being really judgmental, especially when kids talk about their friendships, relationships. They want you to hear, they don't want you to pass judgments. The reason why they're telling you about stuff is they want to just express it. And they are really, because I see patterns where, you know, I see a lot of parents in my room, when they start talking about friendships that are not functional, the kids start getting upset. Because whatever said and done, they're still their friends. They don't want to hear about them being said in a, you know, we can talk about it in a derogatory manner. So I think it's important for you as parents, for us all as parents, to be cognizant of that fact that we have to be really accepting of whatever the kid is talking about and not pass judgments in the moment. Then you can have your judgments in your head, but, you know, kind of be more accepting. Just being there, hearing, observing, listening, you know, just taking more of the spectator role, not really commenting too much on it. So basically an open ear, you know, just lend an ear and just hear what the kid has to say. And a lot of times you'll be surprised what you hear. You know, the kids feel like, oh, I'm being heard rather than being lectured. So, and personally, we all kind of get into that role 2 seconds, we go like, oh my gosh, that's not normal. Because our anxiety takes over and we want to intervene and make it right. So we really don't want to get into that role. We want to be a person who's listening and observing and helping your child. So I'm going to end here, but definitely, Vishali and I are happy to take any questions. If any of you have questions or things we've missed.
So I think at this age of 17 or 18, kids, even if you identify it as an issue, kids often refuse to get help. What do you mean by this?
That's a really tricky part because, you know, unfortunately in Washington State, the age of consent is 13. Even if you decided your kid were in a danger to themselves, the kid says, no, I'm not going to do anything, we really can't treat them. If the kid says, I don't want your treatment, I can't really treat your child. So the goal, so that's a very unfortunate situation because if the kid's needing help, if the kid's refusing help, there's really not much as a provider that I could do, but definitely as a parent, you could continue to encourage them and even seek help from like, teachers, schools, to kind of say, you know, my kid's really struggling. Are there things we could do to make it easier for my child? And a lot of times schools, you could do a 504 plan even without like getting a formal diagnosis, but I know that can be a little tricky when you don't have a formal diagnosis to do an IEP. try is, my suggestion to a lot of my, like people that ask me for advice, like apps. There are some amazing apps. There's something called Headspace that's very popular for teens and adults. There's also something called Calm or Breathe. There's some good apps. They could try those if they're absolutely refusing to go talk to somebody. Or the other trick you could do is just tell them, just 3 sessions. I want you to try 3 sessions. If you absolutely hate it, if you're not willing to go beyond the 3, I'm okay with it. And more likely than not, kids will kind of eventually say, okay, maybe I'll try some more.
I think, yeah, maybe it's my mutual case where if they have, you must prescribe medicine. That is down the road side. No, I don't want to do any of this. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm at a stage where I don't know how to help.
I totally feel for you because unfortunately, how old is your child? 18, yeah, 18 is even harder because they're kind of on that cusp of asserting their independence, and he could pretty much say, I'm leaving the house anytime soon. Is he still at home, or he or she still at home?
Yes.
Okay, still in school, or?
A serious case of anxieties. He stopped going to school. She not last year. After his medication and health, started going to school again. Stopped going to school. Not this year. He's admitted to college. When you're at conference, you don't have seen college. Or even if you go to college.
So, is he willing to stay home and then do some community college? Okay, so just wants to stay home. Okay. So, again, it's a tricky situation because, again, I don't want you to impose your rules, but again, one of the things for anxious kids in that situation would be maybe even, again, you don't want to push them too hard, but you could say, hey, I'm totally fine if you don't go to college, but I really feel like it might be helpful for you to, since you're home, I want you to at least try and find a job. Because you want them to start going out and do something a little more functional. Because sometimes I can help with mood. I forgot to mention this earlier because, if kids get a sense of purpose or a sense of pleasure, it really helps their mood. So that's where the spiritual organizations or, church-based activities, or I'm not talking about the religious sense, I'm talking more in the spiritual sense of giving back to the community, doing something that's purposeful, could help. So if your kid's going to work, make some money, if that's a motivator, that could help. If your kid's willing to maybe go just volunteer somewhere, like KY's animals, or go volunteer at the library, you could say, let's start with once a week, see how that goes. But if it's more social anxiety, if it's more anxiety about getting out of the house, that's going to be a totally different ballgame, and unfortunately, medications would
That's
solve.
not the problem.
Yeah, so if that is the case, unfortunately, it's going to be very hard for them to step out of the house, and I guess you as a parent can also, become a therapist in a way. I would say educate yourself, read a lot of books, a lot of great books for parents, helping your child with helping your anxious child, helping your child with obsessive compulsive disorder, different kinds of books. There's some really good books on some of those, and you as a parent can gain some skills in terms of trying to say the right things, or not to say the wrong things, so that you don't perpetuate that anxiety, and also help them move forward. But I think I wish I had a better answer to this, but unfortunately, the real answer, the reality is he could really benefit from the medication, but he's totally against it. You can't force him. But I would just suggest that you keep encouraging him to do it, think about it. Don't force him because, again, he'll push back, and that'll become a total battle. So you just want to continue to encourage him and give him the opportunity. Hey, if you're willing, I'm happy to take an appointment for you. So you could kind of try to push the boundaries a little bit once in a while just to check to see if he's ready. Or you could just tell him, if you're not ready, I'm not going to push you. Tell me when you're ready, if you're comfortable with that. I know as a parent, it's hard to see your kid not doing anything and kind of, in a way, meditating, pretty much, because I'm assuming he's not getting out of the house, not doing anything. So that's really tough for a parent to see. So I think if you can manage your own anxiety around that, maybe he'll get to a point where he's ready to do something. Or maybe even, like I said, have him do some apps. If he's like, you're going to say, hey, okay, since you don't want to do therapy, let's try some apps. And obviously you're not going to do it with him since he's 18. But you could just say, hey, why don't you try some of these since you're, but if he's like, really, because a part of anxiety is that when you're anxious, you really don't want to do anything that's going to increase your anxiety. And when you do therapy with anxiety, it increases your anxiety levels up. So he's not going to want to do that. So that's where a medication first will really help him cut down that anxiety for him to be able to go to the next step, which is therapy. So.
If I may add, piece to that.
Coming from really civil perspective, like the service organization. So I'm working with some of the kids who are Christ and do the service did as a part you mentioned, but something pressure. So they were really resistant to begin with to come to the service. Once they fell into the service mode, believe it or not, the transformation has happened because they were getting a different type of pressure. And they were able to come out with kind of documents that from shell of the system, and they were able to integrate it as well as communicate with other people and so on. So, but it takes some time to cross that particular wall. Once it crosses, it can do amazing things. That's what we have experienced with our youth board. The VT7 has a youth board, and they communicated saying that, wow, we didn't realize that when we said it was going to all of this kind of low self-esteem or lack of leadership skills and so forth.
If you can hold off on the questions, I think we have a Q&A session a little later, but I just want to give opportunity to all the speakers, also the two more speakers. Is that okay?
I just want to make a suggestion, if that's okay.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you that when I was dealing with anxiety and depression myself, I went on medication that's been working for 13 years now. I've been doing copy of it, and it has been amazing. It taught me how to breathe, and it really helps.
Thank you for that insight. Thank you, Vishalaji, and thank you, Satyaji. I think wonderful thoughts on that. I think we have one more doctor in our midst, Dr. Kishorji. I think if you have a few minutes to speak.
Thank you. I practice in Tri-Cities and Bellevue, and I just want to say a couple of things. Whatever we talked is excellent, but the only thing I observed since 30 years, psychiatry is still a taboo. We are untouchable doctors. In Costco, everybody will say, hey, he's my cardiologist, he's my this, he's my that. But nobody will say he's my psychiatrist. What I will suggest, the first thing, anytime you see anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, any of these symptoms, first call the best practice in town, best therapist in town, best psychiatrist in town, as quickly as you call for a heart attack. That is very, very important in my opinion. We have 10,000 patients in our practice, and we have no death since 4 years. Because I give my salary to all my patients. Nobody bothers me because they have the tool. I give it to you, 509-539-4273. Call me anytime. The second thing is, please, anything they say, the first thing you need to do is call the best practice, best doctors, best people. If you can't get very quickly, go to the ER. So, my take in this is call for help. There is no taboo. There is no shame in having a mental disorder or a condition. In fact, I tell all my patients when I diagnose them bipolar disorder, we have a gift from God, and which is true. Go check. The best artists, best doctors, best people, they all have been diagnosed with bipolar. So what I'm trying to say is, please take seriously anytime your child or adult or anybody who you think even they're just grieving, like parents of Darshan, they need help too. So that's all I got to say. Please call your psychiatrist, your therapist, and they will help you, and we are here to help you like my colleagues here, and we're all decided to practice this because we love to practice, we love to become professionals. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishorji. So finally, we have a counselor and a mother who I would like to invite, Shumaji. Please come on board. She's a mother of two 22 and 20-year-old kids. She's a teacher at, she was a teacher at community college in Los Angeles. Today, she's here to share experiences on parental peer pressure. Okay. We all, when we go to parties, I think as someone mentioned, what is your treatment, what's my treatment, right? And those kinds of things. She also has been under, she has seen kids in different situations where they are overcooperative or undercooperative. So she has a unique perspective in that. So that is all here for her. Thank you.
So good evening. While this thing is happening, it's just a one simple slide. I just wanted it to be more a participative session. As Educator said, I have a 23-year-old, to be 20-year-old, and a 20-year-old, a daughter and a son. So the thing that I wanted to share here is parental peer pressure. You know, the web, the artificial web that we weave into, and what we call as the societal expectation, the cultural background, and then we create a tunnel vision, and then we throw it on the kid, right? And what is the outcome of that, right? I don't know what it is, whether it is fortunate or unfortunate. I have two kids, both have unique, different expectations or things set in life. You can go back to the previous slide. That was a very powerful statement that I wanted to bring about. It says that, you know, with the kind of tunnel vision we have put to the kids, right? What are we expecting from the kids? The kids put a brave front, right? But they are not signs of, weakness. But actually, they are trying their level best to be strong. But then at some point they give up, right? But then luckily it's a good story, at least so far today. As of today, it's a good story from my end, saying that we sought the help we need, we took some preventive measures, and in some unique cases right now, at least we are happy as of this moment. Okay, that's what I wanted to share, the two different experiences I had. So the first one, again, as I asked you, what do you define as a parental peer pressure? You all have teenagers. What do you think is parental peer pressure? I gave you my theory, right? That it is the societal expectation. It is the cultural upbringing. This is what I want for my kid. I want to do the best for my kid. I look around, everybody around me has certain expectations, and then I define something called as success. Getting into whether it is a Montessori school that puts them in the GATE program or the Quest program, whether it is the soccer league, whether it is the Bharatanatyam dance, whether it is the Arangetram that goes on in their life, right? Whether it is the soccer, club soccer, whatever you call them, then that puts so much of pressure on the parents, right? And we think, hey, we have to go into that box and we have to achieve the same thing that everybody, the other Joneses do, right? So that's what is defining us into the whole, and we say, what do we do with that? So my daughter, okay, so I, as a child, as an elementary school child, she would read she would read dictionary for pleasure, okay? So, at age 5, all she wanted was a dictionary, and she would just sit and read. At age 8, somebody was looking into it, somebody came home for the so-called Indian party, right? They said, oh, she's reading dictionary, amazing, you have to put her in a spelling bee. Sure enough, we put her in a spelling bee contest, then with ease, she's just going there for fun. All they told her was, oh, you'll get a $100 gift certificate. She said, I want a PS2, I'll go in, she comes out, she wins that effortlessly. Then that web weaves, right? So we say, okay, let's put her in the next level, in this state level. Then she goes to the state level. And then she goes up all the way to national level. But by then she is miserable. She says, I hate this because all I'm seeing is you go to the national level you're seeing, if it's a two-parent household, the father is sitting there with the dictionary, reading the questions, the origin, the etymology, whatever that nonsense is. And then the mother is sitting there and feeding the child, right? She looks around and she said, Mom, this is not what I want to do. I am reading my dictionary because I love it. And I don't want to do any of this. And I said, just, you're here, just complete. Let's go to the museum. I'm not going to ask you one question, nothing. Let's go to the museum. So we go to the museum. We come back. The next day the competition is there. It's in Ohio. To me it was a God-forsaken place because there's nothing to see out there, right? Then she's there. She says, oh, the museum is fantastic. I have no interest in the museum. Right there is a total disconnect. We didn't grow up going to museum and enjoying all these things, right? But a child has unique interests. Where do you understand that? I mean, I didn't understand it then. But then in the competition, she comes as number 10. So everybody else may have enjoyed it. For me, it was a total disappointment. Because what do I come and tell my so-called peer group, right? She came as number 10. She didn't win anything. We spent $600 for nothing. All I did was went to a museum and I came back. But then she comes back. She literally takes the dictionary, throws it in the dustbin and says, this is the end of my competitive nature. I'm not going into any more competitions. You want, you go. Okay? So, fast forward few years. Somewhere, something academically, that girl was, somebody was talking about multiple APs. I think she would have done about 12 APs. She was a national junior semi-finalist in a merit scholar, all those things. Okay, that's a different ballgame. She did on her own, no pressure on that end. But then, when it comes to what she wanted to do with life, she was totally confused. Because when she was ready to apply for colleges, okay, she sits there, the applications are due, this is in November or whatever it is of the junior year, right, when you're supposed to be applying for colleges. She's sitting there and she's saying, you know what, everybody is talking about all these engineering courses. I don't see any fascination towards it because we had moved from Los Angeles to Seattle during her high school and totally she was struggling to get any friendship. Okay, there was lack of social connection that she could do with any of the kids here. Because here it was more competitive than it was in Los Angeles where she was nurtured with the way she was brought up. Right? By then people had accepted that she is who she is, so it was good. We brought her out of that comfort zone, put her here, so she created a facade. She was proving to us that she could manage academically. But then, when it came to applying for colleges, she was like, I don't know, I can apply whatever you want me to apply for, I will apply. But then guess what? I don't know what I want to do. So I'm looking at my husband and I'm saying, okay, we're going to be spending about $250,000, right? But then what is it that she doesn't want to do? This is not right. She needs to do something, right? So then we come to a common ground. Again, I miss the flags that she is unique, she doesn't want to compete, she has something in her mind. I do not take the time to go and analyze it. Taboo, yes. To me personally, I felt, going to a psychiatrist, what's wrong? There's nothing physically wrong. There's nothing mentally wrong because she has taken 12, 13 APs. She's a national junior merit scholar, for God's sake. So what's wrong with her? Nothing is wrong with her. Why do we need to do that? But then she refuses to, okay, she gets into all the colleges she applies to. But then by then we had a bargain. She applied for some liberal arts, some engineering, science specific colleges, because that's what we were bargaining. Because half of the peer pressure comes from she needs to be an engineer, she needs to be this. Again, what I'm saying, I am trying to live the dream that I am not an engineer, I want her to be an engineer because she wants to be successful. What is my success? She needs to get a job, she needs to be making some money, then that's it, then my problem is over, right? Little do I realize that that's not what she wants to be. She wants to be happy. So somewhere in between the high school, right, I would really thank again the society, right? Somewhere she picked up. I wouldn't say somewhere, it was my husband who initiated her into Sanskrit, and she started loving Sanskrit. And it was something unique, and she could flourish out there with no competition. And she was going further and further along that she took classes online during high school, along with her 12 APs, but then she was also teaching while she was in high school. And she enjoyed that part. I mean, you would say her attitude towards life, meeting with friends, everything was a chore, everything was a problem, but when it comes to Sanskrit, she would be researching for hours, she would enjoy the journey. Right? So again, going back, something in her, I mean, like at least my husband was able to connect with her in Sanskrit, and when it was time to decide for colleges, she said, you know what, I don't want to go to UC Berkeley, I don't want to go to this, I don't want to go there. I'm going to go to UW and do linguistics. Half of my contact lists were gone. They thought I were nuts to send her to UW for linguistics. They were like, what is she going to do with her life? Right? Again, the parental peer pressure. What is she going to do with her life? What will she do? She will not earn anything. But then her love for languages at that point is when finally my husband and I were actually able to connect to each other, and we said, let's send her out there, let's give her a chance. But you know, it wasn't that easy. I mean, I didn't give up that easily. It was maybe partly my problem as well. I still would tell her, oh, you need to do this. You need to try different courses. You are in this technology area. You need to go take some courses. Every course that we forced her to take, she would be miserable, and to a point where she could not connect to anybody, right? I mean, she couldn't get social friendships out of it. There was a time she was in the dorm, and when it was time to get an apartment, there was not a single person who would accept her for her love for languages, for her love for culture. And so everybody would say, Sahana, we cannot be with you because you're weird. And so she was in such a bad state, that was the depression stage, where she said she would go into binge eating, and she had gained so much of weight, and she would drop out of all the classes that we asked her to sign up. And the only classes she would go in is all the linguistic classes. It was just, she would enjoy that journey, but this part of it was totally lost. And when we came to know that, you know, there was no apartment, nobody wants to take her, that was a slap moment when your daughter comes in and says, nobody wants me in this world. That was the day. I remember the day when that was almost the last 2 days before the year ended for her sophomore year. And then at that point, we have a friend who's a psychiatrist. So we called him at about 12 at midnight, and we said, no, my daughter feels like she is worthless and she has nobody in this world. He says, what is lost? What is it that you're trying to prove? So what if she's doing linguistics? Isn't it what is making her happy? What is wrong with you? Right? Why can't you accept? You know, we were narrating all these instances where she wants to define her world. She has a unique interest. She has a unique identity. What is wrong with accepting it? And at that point, right, we told her, pack up your bags. Seattle downtown is not too far. We just live, 40 minutes away. Whatever it takes, we'll bring you back home. Right? One thing you are going to do is friends, the so-called friends that you are trying to achieve, because she was willing to go to any extent of making bad choices to be part of the so-called group clubs or the so-called groups, just so she could get one place in an apartment at somebody's house. Right? I said, that is not what childhood life is, right? Just come home. We will create a setting. We will create a nurturing environment where people will respect you for your love for Sanskrit. Because that's not something that you want to be ashamed of. You have to be proud of it. Big deal. That is your goal. go for it. It's a dead language. So what? You're alive, go pull, okay, go after it. Right? So that moment, we have to thank, of course, Srinivas Kedam was with us when we were going through this. There were just a couple of people because we ourselves could not understand that there was a problem. A. B. I'm not willing to accept that, my child is unique. Because it takes a lot for you to even come out of that web, right? Because you're in it. And you don't come out of it. And so once we came out, once we understood that my daughter has something unique and we want to support it, then I have to thank Samskrit Bharati again, because a group that can nurture you, that can understand you, that can take you anywhere, right? Then immediately things started falling in place slowly. I mean, that 4 years was an awful journey where everybody talks about a college life for a kid to be a beautiful moment. That was not the moment for my daughter. So the next 2 years she had to go figure out what she wanted to do, and she ended up with doing math and linguistics with a minor in Sanskrit. Then comes the moment where I don't know what to do with life because everybody starts talking about going to internship, going to work. But here I have nothing to do because her interest was so unique. She wanted to do with math and Sanskrit together. There's no program in US that offers that. You go around anywhere, it's like, no, you want to learn Sanskrit, you can do Sanskrit. You can do math individually, but nothing together. Again, the whole thing starts from day one, right? Again, you're going through the stress. You're trying to keep up with her positivity, but you yourself feel that there's nothing out there. What do? Again, you can push her back, right? So at that point, luckily, right, we had to stay with her, comfort her through this late night. Suddenly she'll come out and say, I feel worthless. Oh, this is useless. There's no one in this world who can help. Right? Those are signals. But then you're tired, you're working, and what do? Right? So somewhere along we hung together. I mean, at least Samskrit Bharati kept insisting, don't worry, Sahana, if you come out, we will absorb you. You can be a Sanskrit teacher. That one thing kept pushing us. That was one thread that was holding us, saying, you may not make, $1 million or $100,000 salary, but you will get something. You will have something that you can enjoy. Just hang in there. Just hang in there. You will figure out something. To be, to make this long 1.5 year journey short, she was able to find one program way out in New Zealand that is combining Sanskrit with math. And for us to find that particular program took us 1.5 years, miserable days and nights of hunting and searching. But then end of the day, she was able to find something, and she has gone into a direct PhD program, and she is not doing the research, but she's gone there last August, and right now she is doing a program on ancient Indian mathematics where she will be reading Sanskrit. I mean, she'll be reading Sanskrit, pulling the math out of it and publishing it out eventually, not sometime later. The beautiful end to that journey has been when she went to New Zealand, right? She was accepted for who she is. There was nothing that she needed to prove. And, she's surrounded by people who are vegans. And she said, I'm meeting an Italian mom. She's a vegan. And so we have so much in common to talk about. And then there is no judgment. And nobody is boxing me because I don't know my Java or my JavaScript, So I am being treated for, oh, you know Sanskrit? Okay, let's go, let's talk about it. So people are respecting me for who I am. So that is one thing where it's unique, but then it takes a painful journey and a ton of gray hair. But then at least today I'm happy to share that part of the story. I am still not out of the woods yet with my son. Right? So somewhere I've gone wrong with both, maybe because I was caught up with a lot of things. But with my son, he was unique in the sense he is a child who dreams a lot and a child who thinks so far ahead but doesn't work hard. Okay? It's been easy for him But then the red flag, again, coming from LA to here has been a huge social setback for him, because I should have known that there is a problem with him, because he's a child who can talk to anyone with ease. But then throughout high school, I had not seen a single friend come home. Okay, that should have been the worst thing that should have triggered us. It did not. Like he just barely survived high school, but then he was exceptional in robotics. He was just too good in what he was doing, but that's the only thing he will do. He will not do anything. So he was not mature enough to organize his life with so many things. Like if as a life, if those are the life skills, right? He was not ready for school, ready for college. So come college time, that's where I think my husband was talking about how Srinivas was sitting on a February, I think it was snowy day. We were struggling because we didn't know whether he will pass his high school. And so Srinivas and we met at a Starbucks right in the middle of the night, and he sat down and he said, Surya, we sat down for almost 2.5 hours, because he will sleep in because he was so addicted to games, because he felt that the society was not accepting him for his laziness. That's what I still think. But then his skills were more towards, I just want to do things easy, but I want to design the future. He's into designing stuff for robotics or for drones. He feels that the world is not ready for him today. Okay, that's in his mind. And so the uniqueness comes where we put him into a college, right? And my husband insisted that he needs to stay here, take a break, go to a community college. No, I wouldn't let go of that. I said, no, my son has to go to college, right? So, and the second thing, the flag I should have been really careful about was when he started applying for a Midwest college, right? So he applies, he goes to Iowa, and then for 3.5 months, we don't hear a word from him, right? I would call every single day, no answer. Then 2 weeks, there's nobody we know out there. So that should have been another one where we have no one to reach out to. After about almost 2 months of no response, right? I send my husband over. So he goes in, he does not come to the hotel room at all. Then when my husband goes to the dorm, he's not there at the dorm. And so he is hiding from him. So he gets to spend 20 minutes in a 3.5-day journey. And so he comes back and he says, I can't talk to him. I don't know what to do with him. And only to find out that he was struggling to keep up with being independent, and then trying to keep up with the classes, because high school he just stayed away. Somebody was organizing it for him, right? Whether it's his teachers or whether it is a parent, we were organizing his life. Out there's nobody to organize. So then we pull him out, and at that point, we understand that he's depressed, and he had so much of anxiety that he was willing to make bad choices. So then we bring him back, and it took a lot of counseling, not from professionals, but because we have family and friends, we were able to reach it internally. And one thing, again, going back, I may be resonating a lot of things that were told earlier. It's the spiritual end. I mean, it's not the spiritual as in religious, but the spiritual end. There was one thing, after peeling the layers of onion, we find out that all he needed was a structure, and a structure that is not laid out by us, but somewhere else where he could have the discipline to learn and live by. So then we send him to our Vedic Parshala way down in a village in Kumbakonam where there is nobody around, but then it's well structured enough that he doesn't feel too suffocated. Right? That was something that he asked for it, and we said, let's go try it out. And as a special case, he went in, he was there last summer, throughout summer, he was there for about 2.5 months. When he came back, there was so much of confidence that was instilled in him, and there was so much of discipline that was instilled in him. And from then on, he's now with us, going to a local community college, and finally it took me about 2.5 years of denial to accept the fact that yes, going to community college, I was a teacher at a community college, but still I had a taboo saying that my kid has to go to college, get out, then all is well, right? But then now I'm accepting the fact that he's going to pave his own path. He is going to live his life in his own terms, right? And I have to support it, accept it, and be cheerful about it. That is the part I was missing, was I wasn't cheerful, I was confronting most of the time. Right? That is the key ingredient to my kids, at least that's what I wanted to share, is confronting is our immediate reactive mode, but then maybe that's not the best thing. Right? So, yes. So any questions or any final things that you want to share?
Okay, this time I would like to invite all the speakers onto the front so that we can all ask questions. Anybody who has questions to any one of the speakers. Please take a seat. Yeah. Also, I think one of our friend is here. She wanted to speak just for a few minutes and share her personal story also.
I'm not one of the speakers. I'm not one of the speakers, obviously, but I just want to take 2 minutes. So a lot of things today we heard and we listened. And I'm sure we all could resonate that, hey, I mean, I do this already versus, hey, this is a learning, I never thought of this, right? The same thing happens to all of us. But there's one thing I could resonate, that I had 2 kids. I lost my younger one in December. So he was 12, I mean, so it's not a suicidal thing, but then, you know, it's still a loss, so I could resonate to the parents. But I have an older one who's 17, who's a junior in high school, and obviously, like any other teenager, he's going through a lot of stress, and along with the tragedy in the home. So since December, I've been doing a lot of, reading, learning, listening to spiritual, like all kinds of things to help myself as well as to help my son. So, just a couple things I want to tell us all parents is that, one is that basically when we see our kids different from us, doing things in a different way, we think that's wrong. So being different is not wrong. Because we could see like a lot of our friends or neighbors or co-workers making different decisions that we wouldn't make for ourselves. But that doesn't mean they're wrong. So our kid could be one of those people, right? I mean, they may not think like the way we do, but they could be thinking that like the way one of our friends do. And that's not wrong, that doesn't mean they're not going to be successful. We need to realize that and then accept that. Aspect does not come by default, like in India, right? I mean, they are independent, they have their own way of thinking. And we encourage them, the society encourages them. So all of a sudden, when they start thinking differently, we cannot expect them to be dependent on us, because that's not the way they're growing. So the only way, if we really want to help them as parents, the only way we could help them is by being their friends. Because like even us, right? I mean, who do we share things with? We share things with the friends, with the people that listen to us, not the people that are going to judge us or tell us to do something different. So like by being their friend, we could help our kids, become successful. Maybe not the way we want them, what our definition of success is, but the definition varies, and then there are different ways of becoming successful. And another thing is, when something is going wrong, whether in many aspects where we hear like through the evening, when something is going wrong, let's not try to solve the problems for them. Let's make them part of the solution. So discuss with them, okay, I see this is going on, like do you agree? What do you think is the right thing? Like how do you think we should solve it? And whatever the problem is, if we think by their actions, they're going to miss the grades or they're not going to get into good college, let them show their, like what we are really concerned about. It's not that we're concerned about their grade, but it's our real concern is that they cannot get into college. Like, is that really the truth? Maybe it's time for us to think about ourselves that maybe that is the right thing. Then if you put that to your kid, I'm sure they would be more responsible to solve the problem. Just because we say these grades are not enough for who? For us, for them, or really for a college, or what kind of college? Can they really not get into any college? Right? I mean, so we have expectations, we have those definitions in our mind that we ourselves don't realize. So it's time to take a step back, think about how we are acting, how we are thinking, behaving, the expectations we are setting to ourselves and trying to impose them on our kids. And by practicing some of these, we can be better parents, we can help ourselves and our kids. So, yeah, thank you for your time.
I may open again. In the honor of time, we just would like to take questions, but not in public. But our panel is going to hang around here. I know there might be some questions that you would like to talk to us more. We are going to be around here. And with a couple of things that we wanted to share is that we wanted to have a session for the kids. We want to bring those teenagers together like this, and we wanted to have interaction with them, and as well as listen to them and provide opportunity to listen to them, and as well as provide some tools where, as I said, anxiety right at the time, how they can cope with that situation, what can they do, who can they reach, I mean, as much as we love to depend on our public schools and as well as the government and so on, we know that when it's foreign, the stick is foreign. So that is the reason why we wanted to make sure we provide something in the community for support to the parents and as well as and the students also. That is the intention of starting this initiative, and we would like to do that one. Go ahead, and the next steps will be open.
Just a couple of logistics. So I think everybody has the feedback form. So if you would like to get the copy of the PowerPoint presentations, please leave information about with an email address and stuff like that. We can send it right away. All the presentations you have seen today, we will be happy to send it to you. And the second one is, as I mentioned before, we have a 5K walkathon on August 10th. That's also to raise funds for the same cause, which is to support teenagers who are going through tough times. And we identified a couple of voluntary organizations which work with teenagers. So we want to support those causes. So please do come for that August 10th event. Shout out to all the speakers today. I think that was very inspirational story. How you have raised your kids. Although it was a very hard journey in the middle, but thankfully they found their path in terms of who could imagine, right? Somebody doing PhD on Sanskrit and finding Vedic math out of it, right? I mean that's pretty unique, I would say, right? And pretty interesting than having 100,000 more JavaScript engineers, right? So definitely inspiring. And then even Ganeshi with the empowering story he has told us through the loss of the child, but at the same time reaching out to the community to help us all out. Actually, that was one of the catalysts which was for this event. So definitely thank you for that, and all the thanks for the medical professional help here also. So if you have any questions, please we'll hang around. In interest of time, so we'll stop here. Yeah.
And last thing, we have feedback. Please, take a little bit of time, 5 minutes or so, to give that feedback. And we also have contact numbers of our organization members to reach out to us so that we can direct you to the right people. At any time we are reachable. 4 or 5 numbers are there too. And as well as importantly, we recorded this session. Please feel free to share with anybody else, also your friends. And the next time when this event happens, please bring them along so that our goal is we want to save, if we are able to save one child from committing suicide or actually going into that kind of a situation, even, I think our lives will be fulfilled. That is the mission that Bernard as well as the Ganesh is wanted to be, and we wanted to support them. We wanted to support all of you guys in this process. Unless we come together, we discuss openly, we commit our time and as well as our efforts and as well as services and expertise and so on, I don't think we can make a difference. Let's not look up to somewhere else for help. Let's help ourselves. That's a big thing. And finally, I would like to say, thank you to the Microsoft, of course, for providing this space, and all of the people who have come here, sparing their wonderful, precious Friday evening for us. Okay? Thank you so much.